We're ready to roll. Let's speak about that God is the only address. That we all need things in life. And sometimes a person could think, the address is somewhere else. But really, God is the only address. And that we start to refocus ourselves that all the things that we really want in this world, there's an address to find them. And once a person refocuses that God is the only address, it adds a lot of pleasure to your life. Because you know that there's an address to find things. But that's not the only reason. Is that we're tapping into a certain reality. So I want to go and explain today. We're learning the 5th of the 13 principles of what it means to be a Jew. Essentially, these 13 principles define us, the Jewish people, and these are the way that we want to help humanity to be guided, to have the best lives possible. And we're up to part number 5. And part number 5 is explaining that God is the only address, and specifically not to pray in any other direction. So we're going to speak today about prayer. And before that, I just want to explain a little bit what idol worship is. As we've been speaking about idol worship over the last few weeks together. So I'm going to be reading from the Torah. You heard of it? It's a bestseller. So here we go. So the Torah says in the 2nd of the 10 Commandments, Lo yelecha Elohim acherim al panai. Do not have any other gods before me. Okay? Elsewhere the Torah says, V'sartem v'avadetem Elohim acherim. And you turned away and you served other gods. V'shtachavisem lahem. And you even bowed down to them. What's the difference between just serving them and bowing to them? Bowing is like hardcore. You know what I'm saying? Bowing? I'm saying like full on, like prostration style. What's up with that bowing thing? You know what bowing means? Bowing means nullification to that thing. So a person's doing like that bowing thing to the sun, that's not cool. That's saying that I depend on you. And we don't depend on the sun. We depend on the one who gives the sun the energy. We don't depend on the rain. We depend on the source of rain, which is God. But listen carefully to something that Rashi speaks about. Now, Rashi was a great rabbi, and he was a very wise person. Let's listen to his words. So he says, what does this mean, Elohim acherim? Other gods. Okay, listen to these words. This is like the good. This is good stuff here. Shehem acherim la'ovdeim. That the ones who serve them, those gods with a lowercase g, are like other to the ones that are serving them. Meaning, I'm coming to you for something, God forbid, the one who wants to worship this idol. But it's as if to say, when I say idol, I mean angels, energies, sun, moon, constellation, maybe demonic stuff, God forbid, spooky stuff, that the one who's serving that one, the one that's being served, is like other. Tsoyik ela ve'ena oineyu. A person screams out to this spirit or whatever, he's not answered. Nimtza aswi loy kanachri. So what happens? He makes the guy who's serving it like foreign, like disconnected. What does this mean? So Rashi's saying very deep things in a few words. Let's unpackage this idea. That other gods, meaning they make the one who's serving feel like foreign or other. So acherim la'ivdeim hakavana shem af pam loy misachtim imay. So somebody's serving this constellation, let's say, his boss. He's serving some spirit. He's serving something, but that spirit never joins with that person. Is always a bit disinterested. is always a bit separate. I mean, what do you mean? I thought we're getting close. You know what I'm saying? Like, I sold my soul to you, Hollywood, or whatever it might be. I sold myself to this force, to this sun spirit. So why aren't we super close? Why do I feel that you're disinterested in me? You make me feel like foreign. Tabin nisharim acherim klapov. As much as, God forbid, a person would serve some force in the world, they'll always feel like there's a natural distance in the relationship. Meaning, maybe I'm going to cut a deal. Maybe I'll get something. But I would have thought if we're in this relationship, we'll be getting closer. But there's always a feeling like I'm far from the thing that I'm looking for. There's always a feeling like it's a little bit like politics. I'm making this deal with you. But as soon as the politician has what they need, well, aren't we friends? Didn't we build something together? Why are you forgetting about me? Yeah, because there's a distance. It's a service of something that's the wrong direction, and there's always going to be this distance, as if the thing is so what do you want to do then? You want, okay, so let me serve you more. So then we can be close, right? But then there's still a distance. So I better sell more of myself to you. But there's still a distance. Elohim acherim, this is so deep in Rashi, means that you always feel distant. I call out to you, but you don't answer me. You make me feel foreign. Even though I'm trying to develop this relationship. We're talking about idol worship. I'm not saying I'm trying to do this. I'm just explaining what the worshipers are trying to do. I want to be close, right? So we're cutting this deal together. So why do I feel distant still? Why do I feel like a nochri? Why do I feel disengaged from the relationship? Because Elohim acherim means I always feel like a nochri. I feel acher. I feel distant. I feel strange. I feel like I'm not at home. It's interesting that zarut, zar, avodah zara, is what we use for someone who's like a stranger, like a foreign, like he's not, something is off in this, he doesn't belong. This is really what avodah zara is that soyek, I call out, but I'm not being answered. I'm always left distant. There's never a relationship here. So what do we see here? We're learning this step in avodah zara. That Elohim acherim means that the avodah zara doesn't listen to the fact that I want a relationship. It always remains like I can cut a deal with you, but you're still going to be on the outside. You're going to be far from me. A lot of this could be a person trying to get ahead in business and things like that in an unhealthy way. So I got to keep paying my way or social climbing up to the top. But I remain distant. I remain like relationships weren't pure and good. There's going to be one very important thing we're going to learn now, because we're going to have to open up a very big topic. We're going to go through this over the next few days, is that all of idol worship is something that will lack one intrinsic quality. There'll always be a quality of the idol worshiper trying to appease or serve or do something to cut some deal, like going to a minister to try to get a payout or something like that. But the person will be left feeling strange and on the outside. There'll be one thing that could never exist with regards to idol worship, and we'll see that is prayer. Now you might think, but what do you mean? I thought prayer, that's what people do. They pray to the idol. So we'll learn, they might be trying to appease, they might be trying to serve, but we're going to be going into the world of prayer, what prayer really means, and why we pray, and why, if anybody has stepped into a Jewish environment, you'll notice that that's a big thing that we're into, is praying. It's like you can't help it. Like, oh, what are we doing now? Oh, we're praying. Again? Like, didn't we do that like a few times today? Yeah. Like, but like now it's mincha time. Now, then Ma'ariv. It's like lots, but didn't we just die? Yeah, that was yesterday's Ma'ariv. We didn't have today's Ma'ariv. So we're really into prayer. And we hang around certain places, they pray a lot, meaning like for a long period of time. So there's something we're going to learn about now, that the world of false gods and idol worship will never pierce the world of prayer. So let's go see what that means right now. So it says like this. In order to understand this, we have to build up a certain idea. If I didn't know any better, I just looked outside and I saw the world, I would think correctly that from first glance, the way that the world works is that the sun rises, or in fact the earth turning, and then the moon comes up. And where does the water come from? The hydrological cycle. And plants grow, and then they die, and they decompose, and they become nutrients and fertilizer to produce the next growth of plant life. And the cycle of life continues, correct? And animals eat each other, and everything just goes around in a perfect symbiotic relationship. So if I didn't think deeper into the story, I might think, you know what? How could I pray? How could I pray for something to happen? Meaning the way of the natural world is such that there's like a very set system, the cycle of life. Things are pretty set. Things work in a very set, fixed way. How do you change the system? You can't change the system. Everything works with scientific formulas. Everything's very specific. I need to know the laws of nature, and how could I change that? Nature is set, right? Nature is strong, and it is. But here comes the secret. Who set the rules of nature into place? God. God decided that nature could work the way that it does, and it does. But God, who is called the Baal HaRatzon, God decided that nature should run. That's called His will, that nature should run with certain rules. But if the one who is creating nature at all times decides that he wants to suspend the law or change a law, is he able to do so? Of course. He's the one who's creating nature. He set up the rules of nature. And if he decides to, he could change the rules of nature. And therefore, the same God that says that oil should light can decide that vinegar should light and burn. God decided that oil has properties that catch fire, but God could change that if He decides to change it. In a world with God, anything is possible, because God set the laws of nature into place, but He could change the laws of nature. So in a world where you just see nature, you might think, how do I pray? Everything is so fixed in place. So this is important. What is prayer tapping you into? Prayer is taking you above nature to what's called the Baal HaRatzon. Prayer is taking you to a world where you're tapping into the one who is creating nature. And just like God created nature to be this way, if God decides to change or manipulate nature, He can. That's what we generally call a miracle. That's what we call a miracle. Now, there's a famous idea from the Ramban. It's almost considered one of the most important pieces on Jewish thought. Where the Ramban, in the end of Parshas Bo, you can look it up. It's in English. I would suggest everybody go and find this. The Ramban, at the end of Parshas Bo, he says, do you know what the miracles of this world are all about? And we learned this earlier when we were learning in the first Ikarim. The miracles of this world really teach you that you think only God is to be seen in the big miracles. What the big miracles do is tap you into the fact that there's some being, God, creating the natural world. And therefore the big miracles are really teaching you that it's as miraculous that your body works the way that it does because God set up the system that way that he should split the sea or turn water into blood or bring plagues. You're tapping into the one who is creating all existence. So the big miracles tell you, surprise, there's a God creating nature and running it in the way that you know it. But when you see a miracle, you realize that, wait a second, nature is not as set as I thought it was. There's actually a system that God decided that nature should run the way that it does. But if God decides to suspend it, that's what a miracle is, I realize, oh my goodness, there is a creator, sustainer above the system of nature that's creating nature. So in the same way that God is creating nature, that itself now becomes miraculous to me. That there's an infinite God that can create nature. And therefore, you start to become amazed at the pulse of your blood. You become amazed at the way that oxygen comes into your body. The amazed at the way that your eye works. You become amazed at the digestive system. You become aware of God in every single part of your life. So the big miracles are really teaching you about the day-to-day functioning of this world, that this world is being sustained by an infinite creator. Okay, so far so good? So the world of nature, if I only saw nature, I would think, how do you pray? Everything is so set. The world of prayer takes you above the system. Here's a good example. You ever play a video game? By show of hands? Ever in your life? Yeah, obviously. So, the game is pretty set, you know what I'm saying? But did you ever have a moment where somebody sent you the cheat code? You know what I'm saying? Where all of a sudden you're on level 8 or something, you're I couldn't, and he's by the way, just do A, B, B, C, 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 A, triangle, square, this way, and literally Bowser will get up, stand on his head, explode, implode, come back together, and then hand you a bowl of chicken soup and tell you passed the level. No, that can't work. That's not the game. What do you mean? I've been playing this game for years. I can't be. It's you just didn't know the code that the one who made the game put into the game codes that you can manipulate the game. No, but I can't appreciate that. Yeah, because you're stuck in the game as you know it. But if you knew the one who made the game, he put things in there that can clue you into the fact that there's more things going on than you could realize. So when God decides to suspend nature, he shows you that there's a programmer above the game. That's why people bug out. Excuse my, technical terms here. They bug out when some guy does a cheat code. They're you blew my mind, bro. I never thought in Grand Theft Auto that was ever possible. It can't be. How did you know that? It's I met the programmer. I met the guy, or leaked out or something. I met the guy who programs this stuff. Do you know what prayer is? Prayer is contacting the programmer of heaven and earth. And when you contact the programmer, anything is possible. Anything. The same programmer that said that nature works this way. That's why nature, hateva, is the same numerical value as God. Because God is the one who's programming the game as you know it. But at any moment, God can tell you that not a programmer that one time programmed it, but in real time is programming it. And if you go to the Baal Haratzon, the one who is in charge above the system, you could start changing the game. So this is step one. What did we say today? We spoke about how idol worship is essentially, there's always a distance in the relationship. There's never a connection. Then we spoke about the one thing that in idol worship does not exist is prayer. And then we started to explain level one of what prayer is, which is a world that you go above the system You go above the entire system of nature as we know it. You meet the programmer. And when you meet the programmer, anything can change in the system. We're going to see what does that mean to encounter the programmer. What does Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv look like when you're not just asking for stuff, but really prayer becomes an encounter with the programmer himself. We should be zeicha, all of us, to meet the programmer, and with that to see that davening is maybe much more than we ever thought that it was. And with that we should be zeicha mamish, to have the great merit of helping to build the third Beis HaMikdash with Mashiach Tzidkenu, and see peace for all of humanity and goodness fill the world. Yemalei Arz De'as Hashem, that the connection to God will fill the world like water covers the seafloor. Amen ve'amen. Have a wonderful week, my dear friends.